Hello friends, in today's lecture I am going to discuss with you soil analysis and soil pollution. Okay, so first of all, because of its role in the supporting plant growth, soil is a crucial part of the geosphere. So some of the point I already bold here, so that this point may be used for MCQ purpose, fill in the blank purpose, as well as for true false purpose also. So soil is a part of the geosphere, and the study of the study of soil is called pedology. That means the branch of the science in which the study of soil is take place. That branch is known as a pedology branch, and simple it is also known as a soil science. That is important for MCQ purpose. To humans and most the terrestrial organisms, soil is the most important part of the geosphere, as I already told you. Now, though only a tissue thin layer compared to the Earth's total diameter, soil is the medium that produce most of the food required by most living things. You know that that is the soil is used for the agricultural use. That means the most of the food are growth in the soil, some plants, vegetables, etc. You know that. In addition to being the site of most food production, that is the main use of soil. Soil is also the receptor of large quantity of the pollutants. For example, such a particulate matter from a powder plant, smoke stacks, fertilizers, pesticides, some other materials applied to soil often contribute to water and air pollution. That means soil is not only the part for food production, but sometimes soil is also become the part of the pollution. That means soil is a part of water pollution. Sometimes the dust particles from soil are produce the air pollution also. Therefore, soil is a key component of the environmental chemical cycles. It is a valuable part of the Earth's the natural capitals. Soil itself can become an air or water pollutant, as I told you earlier, especially when it has been the absolute by poor agricultural particles, some deforestations or the desertifications. Okay, fine soil particles make up a large fraction of the matter in yellow clouds. Now, next point, that is nature and composition of soil. Soil is a variable mixture of the minerals, organic matters, water capable of supporting the plant life on the earth's surface is the most fundamental requirement for the agriculture purpose. It is the final, what is soil? The definition of soil is, it is the final product of the weathering action of physical, chemical and biological processes on rocks, which largely produce the clay minerals. Okay, what is weathering? I discussed that point. That means the physical weathering, chemical weathering, as well as biological weathering in unit number 1. Okay, in unit number 1, the weathering process is discussed briefly. So here, what is soil? Soil is the final product of the weathering of all physical, chemical as well as biological processes of the rocks. That is the definition. 2 marks definition is there. The organic portion of soil consists of plant biomass in various stages of decay. Now, high populations of bacteria, fungi, animals such as earthworms may be found in soil, and soil contains air space and generally has a loose texture. That is the diagram for the fine structure of soil, showing the solid, water and air phases. Okay, that is the diagram here. That is the root hair, that is from the plants. That is the adsorbed water layers. Okay, that is the, those lines are adsorbed water layers. That is the solid particles, soil solid particles, and that is the space, air space, and that is the soil saturated with the water. So that is the fine structure of soil. Okay, among that, the solid fraction of typical productive soil is approximately 5% of the organic matter and 95% of inorganic matter. And some soil like peat soils may contain 95% of organic materials. Other soil contain as little as 1% of the organic matter. Now, the typical soil exhibit distinctive layers, and those are known as horizon. That means a soil is soil is the some horizons are there. That means it is become by some layers. Okay, and that layers is already discussed earlier in the with the form of diagram. Okay, with increasing the depth, horizons form as a result of complex interactions among processes that occur during the weathering. That means those horizons, those layers, the formation of those horizons or layers depends on which type of weathering processes take place. It is either a physical or chemical or biological weathering processes. Then rainwater prelocating through soil carriers dissolve and colloidal solids to lower horizons where they are deposited. That means in lower horizons there are presence of colloidal solids and some rainwater prelocating through soil carries dissolve. Okay, what is a biological weathering process here? In short, biological processes such as like bacterial decay of residual plant biomasses produces slightly acidic CO2, organic acid, complex compounds that are carried by rainwater to lower horizons where they interact with the clay and other minerals. Okay, the top layer of soil typically that is all about lower layers. Now here that is about the top layer. The top layer of the soil, typically several inches in thickness, is known as the horizon. That is a horizon, not only horizon, that is known as a horizon, or it is also known as a topsoil. And this is the layer of maximum biological activities in the soil that contain most of the soil organic matters and essential for plant productivity. That means that point is useful for true false type of question, or also for fill in the blank type question, like the layer, the blank layer of maximum biological activity in the soil. Okay, or the layer which contain the most of the soil organic matters and essential for plant productivity. Okay, that kind of MCQ or filling the blanks may be asked in the question. The answer is a horizon or topsoil. One more important definition here is the transpiration. Transpiration, that means the water in a plant evaporates into the atmosphere from the plant leaves. That means because of any reason, because of sunlight, what happened, the plant leaves, okay, they evaporate the water from the water that absorbed by the roots. Okay, so that process of escaping or evaporating the water from the plant leaves, that process is known as a transpiration process. And that is the diagram for the soil horizons. Yes, soil profile showing the soil horizons, that is also in unit number 1. In unit number 1 this topic is also there, the soil profile, the most important question, 3 marks question is there. Write a short note on a soil profile, but here I am only discuss the diagram of soil profile. In unit number 1 I am going to discuss that point in briefly. Okay, that is the top soil. Look at here, that is called O horizon, from decay and decaying the plant biomasses. That is the A horizon, that is the top soil rich in partially decay organic matters, humus, plant roots and high biological activity. That means here in the top soil, that is the A horizon. That is the O horizon, in that is the main part of productivity, plant productivity. That means where the roots of the plants are grew up. The next level is called E horizon, layer of elution of the clay and aluminum and iron oxides, generally weathered or leach. That is the B horizon, that is called subsoil, that is accumulation of the organic matter, salt and clay eluted from the upper layers. Then that is called C horizon, that is the weathered parent rocks, and that is known as the bedrock. So that is called soil profile. Now the inorganic components of the soil. Okay, which kind of inorganic components are present in the soil? So many, the most common elements present in the soil are oxygen, silicon, aluminum, iron, calcium, sodium, potassium and magnesium. Okay, and the minerals, these are the elements, but the mineral forms of those elements are given here. That is the common soil mineral consists of finely divided quartz, that is called SiO2 silica, then orthoclase, then albite, epidot and geothite, magnetite, okay, calcium and magnesium carbonates and oxides of manganese and titanium. Then the organic matters in the soil. Okay, so typically the comprising, that is the less than 5% of a productive soil, organic matters largely determines the soil productivity. Okay, the point is it serves as a source of food for microorganisms, undergoes chemical reactions such as ion exchange and influence the physical properties of the soil. So that is for a short question type. Is there a 2 mark short question, what is the importance of organic matter in the soil? So that is the answer of that point, why organic matters are important to soil. Some more importance like the organic compounds even also contribute in the weathering process of the mineral matters, the process by which soil is formed. Okay, so for one example is given here, that is the oxalate C2O4, that is 2 minus is the charge, it is not 42 minus, that is a slight correction here, that is C2O4 minus 2 charge is there. That means it is a oxalate ion produced as a soil fungi metabolite, and that occurs in a soil as the calcium salt, vavelite and vadolite. The oxalate in iron water dissolved mineral, thus speeding up the weathering processes. Now the major class of organic compounds in the soil, that is in the table form, like humus. What is humus? Next point will be there, the definition of humus here. Now composition of humus, that is the degradation and the resistance residue from plant decay, as well as largely carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. What is the significance, what is the use of that humus? It is most abundant organic component, improves soil physical properties, exchange nutrients and reserve of the fixed nitrogen. Okay, fats, resin and wax, that is the lipid extractable by organic solvent. What is the significance? Generally only several percent of soil organic matters may adversely affect soil physical properties by repelling the water, perhaps that is a phytotoxic. Okay, saccharides, they are cellulose, starches, hemicellulose, gums. They are major food source for soil microorganisms, help stabilize the soil aggregates. Nitrogen containing organics like nitrogen bound to humus, amino acid, amino sugars, other compounds, they provide the nitrogen for soil fertility. Phosphorus compound, the phosphate esters, then the inositol phosphates, that is called phytic acid, and the phospholipids, that is the source of plant phosphates. Now what is a soil humus? That is the table number 16.1. So of the organic component listed in table 16.1, soil humus is by the most significant. Humus, that is the composed of a base soluble fractions known as humic and fulvic acids. Okay, you can search those in Google, so you can got the structure of what is a fulvic acid and humic acid. And an insoluble fraction called humin is the residue left when bacteria and fungi biodegradable plant material. That means when bacteria and fungi biodegrade the plant materials, the byproduct of that is called the insoluble fraction known as a humin, and those materials combinedly known as a humus, soil humus. The bulk of the plant biomass consists of relatively degradable cellulose and degradation resistance of the lignin. What is lignin? Which is a polymeric substance with a higher carbon content than the cellulose. And among lignins, prominent chemical components are aromatic rings connected by alkyl chains, methoxy groups and hydroxyl groups. Now the process by which the humus is formed, that is known as a humification. Soil humus is similar to its lignin precursors, but has more carboxylic acid groups. Okay, the part of each molecule of the humic substance is non-polar and the hydrophobic in nature, and part is polar and hydrophilic in nature. Such molecules are known as amphiphiles, and they form micelles in which the non-polar parts composes the inside of small colloidal particles, and polar functional groups are on the outside. You know about what is micelle formation. In micelle there was a lyophobic end and the lyophilic tails is there. The best example is the cleaning process of the soap. Okay, there the hydrocarbon chain is there, and this Na plus is there as a plus charge and negative charge. Okay, work as a lyophobic and lyophilic and like that. Then what is the soil solution? Okay, the soil solution, that is the definition. The soil solution is the aqueous portion of the soil that contains the dissolved matters from soil chemical and biochemical processes in soil and from exchange with the hydrosphere and biosphere. Okay, which how the soil solution is prepared. Okay, this medium transport the chemical species to and from soil particles and provides the intimate content between the solutes and the soil particles. Okay, these are the most of the solids that are present in the soil solution are the in soil present salts composed of the hydrogen ion, calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium cations. In lower levels, that is the iron, manganese, aluminum, and the negative ions are bicarbonate, carbonate, hydrogen sulfates, that is called bisulfates, sulfate, chlorine, fluorine ions. Okay, iron, manganese and aluminums are generally present in the hydrolyzed form or bound with the humic substances, and some anions become bound with hydrogen plus, that is the hydrogen ion, like bicarbonate form the carbonate. Then the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium in soil, that is NPK. Okay, that is the most important fertilizer. The nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium in soil, that is useful for agricultural purpose. In most of the soil, over 90% of the nitrogen content is organic. Now, this organic nitrogen is primarily the product of the biodegradation of the dead plants and animals. That means from where this 90% content of the nitrogen is obtained, the main source of that organic nitrogen is the biodegradation of the dead plants and the animals. It is eventually hydrolyzed by ammonium ion, that is NH4 plus, which can be oxidized to nitrate NO3 minus by the action of bacteria in the soil. Okay, I am going to discuss that whole cycle, that means the process by which nitrogen is converted into NH4 plus, then nitrate and then ammonia in the soil in unit number 1, that is the nitrogen cycle. When I discuss with you nitrogen cycle, at that topic I am going to discuss this whole phenomena, how this nitrogen is converted into the ammonium and nitrate. That is also the main source of nitrate in the soil pollution. Now, nitrogen bound to soil humus is especially important in the maintaining the soil fertility. Unlike potassium or phosphate, nitrogen is not a significant product of the mineral weathering. That means in mineral weathering, the phosphate and the potassium are formed, but nitrogen is not formed in a mineral weathering. It is by the biodegradation of the dead plants and the animals. And nitrogen fixing organism, you know about the ribosomes. Okay, the nitrogen fixing organism ordinarily cannot supply the sufficient nitrogen to meet the peak demands. Inorganic nitrogen from fertilizers and rainwater is often largely lost by the leaching process. That word leaching is also I am going to discuss with you in unit number 1. Soil humus, however, serves as a reservoir of the nitrogen required by the plants. That is the process of nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation is the process by which atmospheric nitrogen is converted to nitrogen compounds available to the plant. That is known as a nitrogen fixation. That is important for MCQ purpose also. Now, human activities are resulting in the fixation of a great deal more nitrogen than would otherwise be the case. Artificial source now account for 30 to 40% of all nitrogen fix. Okay, this includes how the artificial way of converting the nitrogen into that nitrogen fixation process. Okay, that is artificial sources are the fertilizer, nitrogen fixed during the fuel combustion of the nitrogen containing fuels, and increase the cultivation of nitrogen fixing legumes. What is legumes? So here some concern with the increased fixation of nitrogen is the possible effect upon the atmospheric ozone layer of N2O. Okay, by N2O released during the denitrification of fixed nitrogen. Before the widespread introduction of nitrogen fertilizers, soil nitrogen was provided primarily by legumes. These are the plant. What is legumes? These are the plant like soya beans, alfalfa and clover, which contain on their root structures bacteria capable of fixing the atmospheric nitrogen. That means those kind of plant having some kind of bacteria on their roots which can convert the atmospheric nitrogen into the that kind of nitrogen which can easily absorb by the roots of the plant as a source of nitrogen. Those are known as legumes, like ribosome, you know about that. Okay, leguminous plants, they are known as a leguminous plant, have a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria that provide the nitrogens. Now, nitrate pollution. As I told you earlier that nitrate is also become the part of the pollution also. Nitrate pollution of some surface waters and groundwater has become a major problem in some of the agricultural areas. Although fertilizers have been implicated in such pollution, there is evidence that feedlots. What is feedlot? A feedlot or a feed yard is the type of animal feeding operations which is used in intensive animal farming, notably beef cattle, swine, horses, sheep, turkeys, chickens or ducks prior to slaughters. Okay, that means there is the big food yards, okay, feed yards for those kind of animals like horse, sheep or cattle, and the waste created there, that is known as the feedlots. Major source of nitrate pollutions. The growth of the livestock populations and the concentration of the livestock in feedlots have aggravated the problems. Okay, the nitrate in the farm well is common and especially damaging the manifestation of the nitrogen pollution from the feedlots because of the susceptibility of the ruminant animals to the nitrate poisonings. That is the reaction given here, how those nitrates are converted into nitrite. Nitrite is the poisonous. Now, phosphorus, the percentage of the phosphorus in plant material is relatively very low. It is an essential component of the plant. Phosphorus, like nitrogen, must be present in a simple inorganic form before it can be taken up by the plants. In the case of phosphorus, the utilizable species is some form of the orthophosphate ion. That means the plant in the form of what can absorb the phosphorus, the form is called the orthophosphate ions. And it depends on the pH range, that is the most soils, the H2PO4 minus and the H2PO4 minus 2, that is not 42, that is HPO4 minus 2 are the predominant orthophosphate species. Here the orthophosphate is most available to plant at pH values near neutrality. That means for those ions the soil pH must be neutral or nearly neutral. It is believed that in relative acidic solution orthophosphate ions are precipitated. The reaction is given here. HPO4 minus 2 react with the CaCO3. If soil is not neutral in the presence of water, it converts into the bicarbonates. So it is necessary to maintain the pH of the soil to neutral so that soil can easily absorb the phosphate in the form of the phosphate ions. Then the potassium, relatively high levels of potassium are utilized by the growing plants. Potassium activates some enzymes and play a role in the water balance in the plants. It is also essential for some carbohydrate transformations also. When nitrogen fertilizer are added to the soil to increase the productivity, the removal of the potassium is enhanced. Therefore, potassium may become a limiting nutrient in soil heavily fertilized with other nutrients. That means the main source of potassium is here, that is the fertilizers. Potassium is one of the most abundant element in the earth crust, of which it make up 22.6%. However, much of this potassium is not easily available to the plants. Some silicates mineral like leucite, that is K2OL, 2O3, 4SiO2, contains strongly bound potassium. Then the micronutrients in the soil, which kind of micronutrients are present in the soil, that is boron, chlorine, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum for nitrogen fixation, and zinc are considered as essential plant micronutrients. And some of the points are here. The elements are needed by plants only at very low levels and frequently are toxic at higher levels. Okay, manganese, about manganese, iron, chlorine and zinc may be involved in the photosynthesis. Sodium, silicon, nickel and cobalt may also be essential nutrients for some plants. Iron and manganese occurs in a number of soil minerals. Sodium and chlorine as a chloride occurs that is naturally in soil are transported as atmospheric particulate matter from the marine sprays. Boron is substituted isomorphically for silicon in some micas and is present in tourmaline, a mineral with the formula. The formula of the tourmaline is NaMg3L6B3Si6O27 OHF4. It is not necessary to remind that formula. And copper is morphically substituted for other elements in feldspar, amphibols, olivines. Those are the name of the ores, particularly the isomorphical ores of the copper. Molybdenum occurs as a molybdenite, that is MoS2. Vanadium is isomorphically substituted for the iron or the aluminum in oxide, pyroxenes, amphibols and the micas. Zinc is present as a result of the isomorphic substitution of the manganese iron and magnesium iron and manganese. Other trace elements like some sulfides, okay, or by the chromium, cobalt, arsenic, selenium, nickel, lead, cadmium also are there. Then the fertilizer. The crop fertilizer contain nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium as the major components. And with that, magnesium, sulfate and micronutrients also added into that. Now, the composition of the fertilizer. Fertilizers are designated by numbers. For example, 6-12-8. Now, what is 6-12-8? 6-12-8 showing that the respective percentage, that means the percentage of nitrogen is here in that case 6, then phosphorus as P2O5, that is 12%, and potassium as K2O, that is 8%. Okay, sometime farm manure correspond to an approximately 0.5 to 0.24 to 0.5 fertilizers. Okay, that means here that is the farmer ratio, that is 0.5, 0.24, 0.5%. The organic fertilizer like manure must undergo biodegradation to the release the simple inorganic species like NO3 minus, that is the for hydrogen phosphate, potassium. And most modern nitrogen fertilizer are made by the Haber processes, in which nitrogen and H2 are combined over a catalyst at temperatures of approximately 500 degrees. You know about the Haber process, N2 plus 3 H2 give 2 moles of ammonia. The anhydrous ammonia product, that is has a very high nitrogen content, that is 82% of the nitrogen content. Okay, that is the reaction. Ammonia plus water gives NH4 plus OH minus, that is the reaction. Some special equipment is required for this reaction. Why? Because of the toxicity of the ammonia gas. Aqua ammonia, 30% solution of ammonia in water may be used. Okay, that means here the ratio of that ammonia plus water is 30%. 30% solution is used. Okay, it is sometime added directly to the irrigation waters also. It should be point. That means 30% ammonia is directly added to the water that is provided for the irrigation process also. It should be point out that the ammonia vapor is toxic and ammonia is reactive with some substance also. Ammonium nitrate NH5NO3 is a common solid nitrogen fertilizer. Okay, that is a solid nitrogen fertilizer, ammonium nitrate. Other compound used nitrogen fertilizer include sodium nitrate, calcium nitrate, potassium nitrate and ammonium phosphate also. Ammonium sulfate, a byproduct of the coke ovens, used to widely apply as a fertilizer also. Now, fertilizer as a pollution, how fertilizers maybe act as a pollution in soil. So, one of the more troublesome problems that have arisen from the increase of fertilizer use, that is recent time, it is water pollution from agricultural land runoffs enriched in nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. That is the main reason behind that. That is the soil runoff after rain, that was the land runoff with the that rainy water that is containing the soil. That means after spraying the fertilizer in the farm, after rain, what happened, that fertilizer are mixed with the rainwater and they are create some soil pollution as well as water pollution also. On a local scale, lakes and reservoirs have become the eutrophied as the result of the fertilizer. That word eutrophication, that is arise from the eutrophication process. I am going to discuss that point in unit number 1 with you. The nutrients in the fertilizer cause the excessive algal growth also. The algal biomass decay and consume oxygen. Bodies of water are seriously damaged by the oxygen depletion. And as a non-point source, that is called NPS, that is a non-point source of the pollution, fertilizer present the challenging control problems. Non-point source, that means I discussed in the last lecture, that is the source of the pollution that cannot be identified easily. Okay, that is known as a non-point source. Point source, that means the pollution whose source can easily identified, those are known as a point source. While non-point source, that means the pollution whose source cannot be identified, like fertilizer. The source of the fertilizer cannot be identified, which kind of component are added in the soil pollution, they are known as a non-point source. One of the more spectacular manifestation of the agriculture fertilizer pollution is the Gulf of Mexico. That is the example of the fertilizer pollution, that is the Gulf of Mexico dead zone, which develops and grows in size each summer in a region of the Gulf receiving Mississippi River runoffs. The aggravating the effect of low oxygen in the production in enzoic sediments of toxic odorous hydrogen sulfides. The formation of this zone is intensified by the layer of less dense fresh water from the Mississippi River that tends to prevent mixing with the seawater, that is overlays. Then pesticides and other residue in the soil. Okay, how pesticides and residue are also added in soil as a pollution. Some major points are here regarding the pesticides that need to considering with the respect to the license and regulation process. Number 1, that is the carryover of pesticides and biologically active degradation products to crops grown in the little region. Biological effects on organism in terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, including bioaccumulations and transfer through the food chain also. Groundwater contamination effects on soil fertility. So those points must be remembered during the licensing and the regulation of the pesticide used in the agricultural process. Okay, herbicide. Herbicides are the most common chemical that influence the soil and the organism that it support, because to be effective they must generally come into direct contact with the soil and persist long enough to be effective. Now, an important environment characteristic of the chemical like herbicides in soil is the formation of bound residues. Now, what is bound residue? Which are parent compounds or metabolites in soil or in the organism that inhabit the soil and that are not extractable by the common extraction process. They are not easily removed from the soil. However, this kind of procedure does not necessarily reflect the bioavailability of a substance in soil and its related characteristic of biodegradation process, bioaccumulation process, or the mineralization processes. So, it is well established that pesticides and other foreign compounds remain in soil for longer periods of time. The following effect occurs. Number 1, that is called substance become increasingly resistant to the extraction and desorption processes. They become significantly less bioavailable to the organisms. Overall toxicity is also decreased. The 3 primary ways in which pesticides are degraded in the soil, these are chemical degradation, photochemical reactions, and the biodegradation. So, various combinations of this process may operate in the degradation of the pesticide. In chemical degradation of the pesticide has been observed experimentally in soil in clays sterilized to remove all the microbial activities. Okay, so some chemical number of purely hydrolytic reactions of like pesticides in soil, like the catalyzed hydrolysis of the ortho-dimethyl ortho-2,4,5 trichlorophenyl triphosphate. You not need to remember the name. Short form is called troline. Okay, ronel, etroline, or trichlorometaphos. That is in effect attribute to OH groups. A number of pesticides have been shown to undergo photochemical reaction also, that is chemical reaction brought about the absorption of light. Frequently, isomers of the pesticide form as products. Okay, many of studies reported apply to pesticides in water or in the thin films. Relatively less is known about the photochemical reactions. So that is all about soil analysis and pollutions. Now the second important part that is not discussed earlier, that is the Karl-Fischer reagent and its use. Okay, that is the content from internet. I collect those content from the internet. In reference book I not found those contents. What is the Karl-Fischer reagent? The reagent consists of a solvent alcohol, known concentration of iodine, a base and a sulfur dioxide, that is known as a Karl-Fischer reagent. Principle of reagent, that is the Bunsen reaction, that is known as a Bunsen reaction between the iodine and sulfur dioxide in an aqueous system, is the basis for the Karl-Fischer reagent reaction, that is I2 plus SO2 plus water gives 2HI plus H2SO4. The above reaction was adjusted by Fischer for the determination of water content of a substance in a non-aqueous system. That means Karl-Fischer reagent is used for determine the water content in the plant system, non-aqueous systems. When you titrate the Karl-Fischer reagent in a titration cell, the following reaction take place. That is the reaction. The first reaction is between iodine and sulfur dioxide, that is presence of neutralized base to form alkyl sulfide intermediate, that is ROH plus SO2 plus Rn, that is the intermediate RNHSO3R. The common base used in Karl-Fischer titration is a pyridine, that means here that is Rn, that is the base, that is like pyridine or primary amine like imidazole can be used. Then the alkyl sulfite is then oxidized by iodine to an alkyl sulfate, RNHSO3 plus water in the presence of I2 and base, that is give RNHSO4R, RNHI, that consume the water. Okay, that it is the oxidation reaction which consume water. That means here the molecules consumed by the that complex, that intermediate sulfide intermediate. On the basis of that, you can find out how many moles of waters are present in non-aqueous system. Here the ratio is 1:1, that is called if one molecule is react with 1 mole of water, that means how many ml is consumed here, that ml is converted into moles, and on the basis of the mole equivalency you can easily find out how many moles of water are consumed by the that sulfide intermediate. And once all the water present have been used up, you can determine the end point of the reaction by detecting the presence of excess iodine using constant current polarization method. And that is the procedure given to us. You can Karl-Fischer reagent both volumetric as well as the conductometric titration. Volumetric titration, we use the KF solution, that is Karl-Fischer solution containing dissolved iodine as the titrant until the presence of trace excess iodine is detected at the end point. And in the coulometric procedure, not conductometric, I am sorry, that is coulometric procedure, we add sample to an electrolyte solution consist of iodine ions and other KF reagents, and you then observe the production of iodine from the electrolytic oxidation of iodine as a titrate. The iodine produced in this reaction is proportional to the quantity of electricity required for the oxidation conversion of iodine ions into the iodine up to the end point. Here in coulometry, that is the measurement of the current is here, and limitation and some precautions are here. What are the limitation? We should not use Karl-Fischer reagent for samples containing redox active constituent like dimethyl sulfoxide, because why? Constituent may react with the reagent and give incorrect results. In addition, we must carefully try the titrating vessels before use. Karl-Fischer reagent method is highly selective and reliable means of determining the moisture content of the substance even when present in trace amount. So that is about the Karl-Fischer reagent and its use and some limitation and precaution also. Thank you for watching. Now if you have any doubt in your mind, then you can ask me in the comment box, or you can ask me directly on my WhatsApp number also. Thank you.